Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem of my Blitz game number 393. My opponent kicked off with e4 and I decided to play the French defense. So we get, after a couple of normal moves, we get the Tarrasch defense, which is also a normal move. The Tarrasch defense is knight d2. And the idea is to avoid the win hour with the pin of the bishop. So there's no bishop pin there. White can just play c3 to kick the bishop. So that's not a useful move here. There's two main ways to play that I know about. There's other ways. You can take, and you would get into the Rubinstein French, which is a line you can play against either knight d2 or knight c3 because it just transposes to the same position. That's bishop d takes e4. There's also bishop e7 and knight c6 immediately. But c5 is the main move, and that's the way I usually play it, leading to more of an open position than you get with a typical French. And knight f6 is the way to play. Second choice here if you want to get to one of those typical closed positions with the French. So he pushes on with e5, and knight drops back to d7, and we have standard structure. So we see these are all the main moves. c5 challenging the center, c3 defending it, developing a knight, putting a little more pressure here, knight to e2. Funny move. I would have expected the knight to come to f3, but I see that really that's the main move here. I wonder, is there a problem with knight to f3? Let's investigate this a bit. Knight g to f3. And then just bishop e7. Doesn't seem to be any way to refute it, although queen b6 apparently is okay here for black. Bishop e7, c takes d4. So maybe maybe knight to e2 is a bit more precise than knight f3. So at this point, I decided to go ahead and exchange here. And then right here, the normal course is to continue undermining with f6. So I don't normally play this line. I usually play the c5 line. So I wasn't aware that was the main move here. I was thinking, I knew it was an idea. f6 to undermine the pawn chain is almost always an idea in the French defense. I decided to try and set it up a little bit first. So I play b6 to give an avenue for my light squared bishop to get into the game here on b7 or perhaps a6 if allowed. He castled. Bishop b7 and goes knight to f3. So he gets his knights on a good squares. I go bishop e7, a3, I castle. Develops this other bishop. So everybody's doing quite reasonable moves. And then I play f6 here. And actually, at this point, I thought, well, f6 is completely set up. And so this must be well-timed. But actually, it's not well-timed at this point. f6 is a mistake. So if you want a little tactical quiz, what does white play after f6 to cause some trouble for black? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. After f6, white could play knight f4. Kind of an annoying move. It hits the d-pawn, e-pawn rather, which has just become undefended by the move f6. So that's the thing you always have to be worried about when you play f6 is are you going to leave this pawn undefended, and can you mount a defense? Right here, there's actually no way to defend that pawn. Let's see. See this knight, for example, can't go to that square or that square, which are the only squares that defend it. And the same is true of the other knight. The only squares it can reach to defend it are not available. The queen can't move to defend it. So this pawn is just falling, and there's no way to prevent it. So knight f4 would have been a good move here. So my opponent continued with the exchange. This is how I expected it. And now we're back in normal lines. So I took back with the knight. This is a good outpost for the knight. Rook e1, putting indirect pressure on the e-pawn now. And I went with knight e4 to try and block this. And you see white keeps the opening edge through all of this. So he's doing okay. He hasn't played bad moves. He just missed that one tactical shot with knight f4. But something to always look for on either the white side or the black side of the French. When this e6 pawn becomes weak, you try and find a way to exploit it immediately. Okay, game continues with bishop e3. I developed my bishop to f6. That was part of my idea of bringing the knight out here. I wasn't too worried about the exchange. I thought it would lead to interesting play. Let's back up. Does the computer like taking? Here. No, it's not even on the computer's list to take. Yeah, so, I would have these kind of funny looking pawns here, but his pawn would fall, perhaps. I would have some pressure against the d pawn at least. Okay, so bishop e3, bishop f6. He plays rook c1, getting his rook on the open file. I go in with e5. Maybe a bit premature. So there's this weird tactic that the computer finds here. This is a little bit harder to spot. I certainly didn't see it. And anyway, taking the rook here, sacrificing the exchange. Bishop takes. And then taking on e5. So he's gained a pawn for the exchange, and I guess my pieces are a bit awkward. I have to move my bishop out of the way, and then knight f to d4. The f knight to d4, hitting my bishop. And well, it just appears to be a good exchange sack. Let's see, if we count the material, white has just one pawn for the exchange, but he has 4 pawns against 2 over here on the king side, and it's looking a bit ominous, and I'm going to have to waste a tempo moving my bishop. His pieces can come into the game with knight f4, for example. So not an immediate sort of tactical knockout from that exchange, but a good exchange sack. So interesting way to play there. Spotted by the computer. He played the more normal move, just bishop takes e4, but now I get a good position. So I've somehow gotten away with my play so far. I played d takes e4, taking the bishop back. He throws in the check queen b3. This doesn't really help. I guess the engine thinks he should go ahead and take on e5 right away. I don't think this hurts too much. Yeah, this is a fine move. But the position is about even. Now d takes e5. He gets his pawn back, and I can take it with the knight, which I did. Apparently it's even better to take his knight. I take here. He takes here. I guess the problem is, this pawn is not supported. If he just takes the pawn back, if he just grabs my pawn on f3, then I'm a whole piece up. So he's got to take another piece, and then queen takes f6. Why not f takes e2? F takes e2 is good as well. Queen takes f6 for the attack is even stronger according to the engine, but just f takes e2 and I'm a piece up. He gets some counterplay. I guess that's the point. So if we count, I've got an extra knight, but he's got a bunch of pawns. He's going to round up this one, and my king is exposed. So not so clear, that position. So it's interesting. The chess engine suggests that knight takes e5. Instead of knight takes e5, e takes f3, taking the knight. He takes my bishop. Instead of taking the second piece, taking back here. And playing this position. So the material is even, and but I have some nasty threats against his king. So if something similar happens in the game. Anyway, I play the more natural knight takes e5, but not best. So he continues exchanging here. And I have some slight edge. I have the bishop pair, and I have this advanced pawn, which controls some important squares around his camp. And now we get into some maneuvering. I'm trying to find a way to take advantage of these these assets that I have here. So he chases my queen. Cancel that. Rook e to d1. I come out to f6. He goes knight to c3. Knight to c3. Yeah, coming out on this side, trying to put pressure on my advanced pawn. I go here, skewering this bishop. I wanted to get this bishop off of the e file, so I can push my pawn forward and try and open some lines against his king. I guess it's not good for him to take, because my queen will come forward and I'll have a lot of pressure on f2 here, and I'll be threatening to push the pawn. So he played bishop to d4. Let's see, the best move here is knight b5, and this is the way to stay in the game. Knight b5 or queen c2. I'm not really... I would, if he did nothing, I would take, because then I have, after the exchange, I have queen to f2 with check. So queen back to c2 would guard the f2 square, and then I wouldn't really want to take anymore. Or knight to b5, maybe with some ideas of coming in and harassing my light squared bishop as a way to play. So he played bishop to d4, hitting my queen. And that's a mistake. So here's your second tactical quiz for the game. After bishop to d4, what's the best move for black? See if you can spot the tactic there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play that. Bishop d4, hitting the queen. The best move here is queen over to h6, which I didn't notice. But the queen there is a double attack. I'm attacking the rook, which was under threat anyway, and I'm also threatening checkmate here. And he can't meet both threats. He's going to lose at least a rook there. So I didn't play that. I played queen f5, getting away from the attack on my queen, and he played rook c2. That was his idea. Move the bishop with a tempo on the queen, and then get his rook out of take. And so he's managed to hold on to his material. But now my position over here on the king side is really ominous. I've succeeded in chasing his bishop away from that important e3 post. And I creep in with the queen with queen g4. The most effective move here, it's interesting, is bishop a6. I'm not quite sure I understand the point. Bishop a6, knight e2, and bishop to d3. Going for the d3 square. So the engine is recommending this kind of sort of a positional approach, I guess, getting that bishop on a good post where it'll be difficult to chase it away. And maybe it actually wins the rook, because maybe this rook is completely out of squares at that point. After knight e2, bishop a6, knight e2, and bishop d3, this rook has nowhere to go. But my bishop is hanging, so interesting. I just played queen g4, creeping in towards his king here. He plays rook to e2. And now I go rook a to c8. Thought maybe there'd be some tactic here. Yeah, I'm threatening to take the knight and then pick up the rook. So he needs to deal with that. He defends the the rook with rook d to e1. And then now I push on with e3, busting open the king side here. And now he really needs to take it. F takes e3, but you see even that move is winning. So actually, if we want to trace the losing move here, it was since e3 is a winning threat, he needs to do something about that here, and it looks like queen b4 or h3 are moves to try and deal with this. Yeah, because I also have a threat on the rook, as well as the threat of h3, as well as the threat of e3. So h3 kicking my queen is a way to deal with both of those, or queen b5 is a way to defend the rook with the queen, and then maybe put some pressure on my position here. Okay, so rook d to e1 really was the losing move. I throw in e3, and now even if he takes, which is the best move, I have a great position here with these open lines against his king. Taking, by the way, defends the g2 square laterally with the rook. Here, let's play on couple moves. What's the engine suggesting after taking? Suggesting bishop to b8, which is funny, just dropping back but staying on the same diagonal. I don't know if I would have found this, so he probably should have tried to defend this way. Anyway, what he played here was g3, and that's just too weakening. I can just put my queen on the f3 square on this diagonal, and he just has no way of dealing with all the threats. I'm threatening mate and from a couple different squares, and he just can't deal with all of them. If he takes on e3, I'm going to mate here, I guess. What's the engine finds a defense with knight d5. Okay, but that's giving away material. Yeah, so he has to give away material to stave off the mating threats. So anyway, he resigned at this point. That's how the game ended. Pretty interesting tactics in that, I thought. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.